Hello and welcome back to another wonderful day here at MSA. So glad to see you. Let's start making some sense about what's going on out there. Today we're going to talk about the effects of what's happening at the border. Now everybody says, my gosh, we're going to talk about the border. You keep talking about the border periodically. This is more than just the border. Okay, this has a lot to do with Governor Kristi Noem and the things that she's going to start saying. Not a lot of us are hearing this out there, especially nothing on mainstream media. You won't be able to hear it because they don't want you to wake up to the fact of what is actually happening. So do us a favor. If you're following us on YouTube, now we get suppressed a lot on YouTube. And if you look at a lot of our videos, you'll see how the numbers fluctuate heavily. And that's because they don't like what we talk about. So hit that like button so we can get the algorithms out there a lot better. But most of all, we hope you're watching us on Rumble because we love our friends over at Rumble. They don't suppress us. And we get this channel to grow, and more truth is going to keep coming out and making sense every single day. So while you're watching us, if you just happen to come up on the screen, do us a favor, tap that video so we actually get credit that you're watching us, and hit that follow button. We'd appreciate it. Now let's get into what we're going to be talking about. Governor Kristi Noem came out, and she starts talking about the effects that all of this immigration's been having on South Dakota. And you go, oh, yeah, of course, overran with immigrants and stuff. No, worse. How the cartels are doing, how her assistance in Texas can cause all kinds of issues because Biden might federalize the National Guard for Texas and then all of a sudden make them stand down, which would be the first time ever in American history that we've ever alerted our troops to stand down. Most of all, she's going to talk about, especially right here in the beginning, because we're going to roll this clip. This is very important. She starts talking about some Constitution and some Bill of Rights things, but actually more about the Founding Fathers and how all of this started. Because one of the things you need to understand about Kristi Noem, she got started in this whole ensemble of politics because her father died in a ranch accident on their family farm when she was 22 years old and she was trying to attend college. She went back home, and because of the inheritance tax back in the day, they were going to lose the family ranch, which was actually a very large ranch. So she actually went down and started going after those of legislation to try to change the death tax. And the chairman at the time was so impressed, she ended up getting a job. That's a longer story that we're not getting into. Right now, we're going to get back into the immigration. Just wanted you to understand you're talking about someone that didn't plan on being a politician for their entire career. So the words that are coming out of her mouth are more real to you and I than anything you're going to hear about a lot of people that have become career politicians. Trust me, she understands what we think, how we feel, and why we're that way. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. We're just going to watch this clip real quick. And if you're on YouTube, you might not see any more of this video, but you would if you're watching us on Rumble. So check us out, all right? See you in a minute.
We are a nation of laws, and our leaders should respect those laws. South Dakota is directly affected by this invasion. We are affected by cartel presence right here on our tribal reservations, by the spread of drugs and human trafficking throughout our communities, and by the drain on our resources at the local, the state, and the federal level. America is the greatest nation in the history of the world, but we were not always that way. Our nation started as nothing more than an idea. It was an idea that was so controversial that our founding fathers had to pledge their lives. They had to pledge their fortunes, their sacred honor to each other just to be able to write it down. That all men were created equal, that they were endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive to those ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it. In that powerful document, our founding fathers outlined certain facts. It was a list of injuries that King George had perpetuated against the colonies. Those grievances included ways that he had failed to protect the colonies, how he had used force to make the colonists less safe. When the original 13 colonies in those states ratified the Constitution, just a few years later, they did so with the understanding that this document would allow them to keep themselves safe from external threats. They would not have done so if they did not have the power to defend themselves.
All right, let's break this down real quick. So immediately she starts going right into the facts of South Dakota is being destroyed by what? Did she say all the people that are showing up, the tens of thousands of people that have been coming through there? No, she talked right immediately about the drug cartels and what they're bringing with them, what they're doing, and how they're doing it. We're going to get into that a little bit more into this segment. But one of the points I want to point out big time is her talking about our founding fathers and that our country was originally an idea. Think about that long and hard over the course of the next several days. What she's talking about is you had people that were tired of the tyranny and the dictatorship, their rights that were taken away from them, their inability to be able to be their own free selves. They're thousands of miles away from their homeland. They're in these new colonies, and yet they're still under the thumb of oppression. Okay, that's what she's talking about our founding fathers, that this was an idea, and they risked everything to stand up against all of that, to right the wrongs, and to be able to live as free men, to raise their families, thrive in their businesses, and do things the right way. And then that's why they wrote this Constitution. That's why they ended up with our Bill of Rights and everything else. And look around you about what's going on. And everybody says to this day, they say, oh my gosh, we can't do anything about the government. Yes, we can. And I'm not saying go overthrow the government. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is it is us that make the government who they are. Unfortunately, we've empowered so many people within all these different parts of our government that it just seems like, where do we even start? How do we go there? Well, we start with our presidents, with our senators, with our congressmen. That's how we start. Okay, we also start on the local and state level. Who's your attorney general? What are they doing for your actual area? Who's your treasurer? Do they do any good for where you live? I mean, think about it on a local level. Is your governor anything like her? You know, are they for the people, or are they for their political party? That's what she's talking about. Now, on top of this, we've got these cartels that have started entering all over the place. And we're going to get to this in just a minute about what they're doing and how they're doing it, because the cartels have a big, big part in this. Now, I want to roll another clip real quick, because several of these clips tie in together to really get to my point. And my point isn't overthrow the government, okay? My point is the actions of the governments currently are what is bringing this country down, what is driving everything apart, and mostly what is driving us apart. We can always have differences, and we used to be able to have conversations and be able to talk about different things. Now it seems like people are afraid to have a shouting match. Ooh, I don't want to offend so-and-so. I don't care if I offend you. I want to hear your point of view. So maybe if I have something wrong, I can understand what I have wrong and maybe see it in a better light to help everything around me get better. Maybe. All right, let's roll this clip, and we'll be right back to talk about it a little bit more. See you in a second.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, the United States of America is in a time of invasion. The invasion is coming over our southern border. The 50 states have a common enemy, and that enemy is the Mexican drug cartels. They are waging war against our nation, and these cartels are perpetuating violence in each of our states, even right here in South Dakota. For almost 250 years, America has been the standard of a government of, by, and for the people. But today, the American people are not secure, and a nation without borders is no nation at all. A government that does not value the security of its people is not only negligent, but it's inhumane. When the federal government fails to uphold its duty to the people, the responsibility falls to the states. Now, I've been to the southern border many times, and some of you have been there too. I've witnessed firsthand this invasion that is taking place. What shocks me every time that I go is that it's so much worse than it was before. The cartels have operational control of our border.
Now there she goes again, talking about the drug cartels. It's going to have a big effect in the very last part of this segment. But as we're going through this, you know, as she keeps talking, America, very powerful nation, being, you know, by, for the people, and all of the things that have made this country great for so long. And now we have an open border. I mean, where in our history have you ever heard of America having an open border? What country do you actually have open borders in that you can just walk in at any point in time? Sweden's supposed to be one of the most friendliest ones out there from what I've heard. You can't just walk in there. Well, I know they're up in the Alps and all that, but you still can't just walk in. So why are we having an open border? Why are we in this country allowing this type of tyranny? See, this is dictatorship. We're being told now that this is how our country will be because everybody has the right to freedom. Everybody does have the right to freedom. They've always had the right to freedom. We used to have clipper ships that came into the port over in New York, and they would drop people off, and they would have to sign in, and they would become part of our country. They didn't just walk in. Okay? If you look at all the old cowboy movies, everybody wanted to run for the border, get into Mexico. And then you would see at the end of the movies where the Mexican military would get a hold of them and end up, taking them out because they didn't want them there either. See, everybody has a border for a reason, and they protect that border to protect their own people from harm. That's what that's all about. Now, one last clip real quick before we get into this because, as she stated, the drug cartels, that's getting worse and worse every time she visits the border. So we're going to play this one last clip, tie all this in, and then get back with the conclusion of all of this. So just hang in there. If you haven't done it yet, tap that screen, hit the follow button. If you're on YouTube and we're still on YouTube, please hit the like button. We really appreciate it, and share to everybody. All right, we'll be right back.
You may be sitting there wondering right now, why should I care? Texas is a long ways away, and my community and my state are not affected by this. Well, you would be wrong. The sheer number of illegal migrants coming into this country has made it so that every state is now a border state. This isn't just an issue for Texas and other states along the border. This is an issue for every single American. And this issue is about preserving this great nation for our kids and for our grandkids. We see the effects of Joe Biden's failures at the border every day in South Dakota. The drugs and human trafficking pouring over the border, they devastate our people. Make no mistake, the cartels have a presence on several of South Dakota's tribal reservations. Murders are being committed by cartel members on the Pine Ridge Reservation and in Rapid City, and a gang called the Ghost Dancers are affiliated with these cartels. They have been successful in recruiting tribal members to join their criminal activity. And on the other side of the state, there is documented evidence of cartel activities on the Sisseton-Wahpeton Reservation and others. We in state government do not have the jurisdiction to unilaterally intervene and to provide law enforcement support to our tribes. That's a treaty obligation of the federal government. The Oglala Sioux tribe has sued the federal government. They pointed to evidence that the level of violent crime, drug trafficking, and gang activity on the reservation is staggering, that it's unprecedented, and that it's overwhelming law enforcement resources. A federal judge ordered the Biden administration to come to the table and to work with the Oglala Sioux tribe to provide their desperately needed law enforcement resources. But Biden has failed to make good on that obligation. So now the Oglala Sioux tribe is suing again.
Why should I care? Right? Why should I care? When I look, I don't see it from my house. So it must not be such a big issue, right? I've been watching the same news channel for years, and they don't cover a lot of this stuff. So it really must not be a huge issue because I really don't see it. You do see it. You're just getting numb to it. It's all around every state. Look at all the homeless people. Most of those are not homeless people. They're drug addicts. They can't help themselves. Look at the way they dress. Think about what homeless people looked like 15, 20 years ago, and think about what they look like now. Okay? And where do they get the pens for the cardboard signs? Anyway, let's get on to this. Why should I care? Well, all of this is getting pushed across our southern border. Our southern border is being ran by drug cartels. The administration is turning a blind eye to it. You know it, I know it, everyone knows it. If you don't know it, then why don't you know it? I mean, think about this. Let's break this down really fast. There's a person in China, they call him White Wolf. He's the one that sold all of the precursors to make fentanyl to the Sinaloa cartel in Mexico. He also orchestrated the machines that make the dummy pills that look like Adderall and everything else, so these pills can get manufactured in Mexico. There's several thousand Chinese nationals that live down there that work for these places that are making all of this stuff up, and then it comes across our border. One of the things that Governor Noem talked about, that it was in this clip, but I didn't play it on this segment, is that what the drug cartels have been doing is they send women and children across at one point of the river, right? And so as these women and children, they're actually starting to drown and things, our people help them. A lot of them have been resuscitated and brought back to life because a lot of them were dying. And the cartels are a little ways down the river, and they're bringing across all the drugs. See, and they keep bringing in all the fentanyl. Because why? Fentanyl is a huge moneymaker. Now let's put the squares together. And you go, yeah, but why aren't we hearing of these giant drug busts and everything like that here in the States? Why don't we hear about that? Because the drug cartels are going on to native land. They're going on to all the tribal land where we don't, on a state level, we don't have access to that. We can't march in there and go start busting these people. You can't. There's a treaty that was signed a long time ago between the feds and all the, tribes. And only the feds can go in there. But as you heard, the Oglala Sioux tribe brought up a lawsuit against the Biden administration because they're being overran on their land. And their police force can't help. It's not enough, right? And you can't just send in the military. You can't do that. So Biden's not helping them. A judge ordered Biden to help them, and he still turned a blind eye to it, and he still now has another one. And why? Because, let's back it up to the beginning of all of this. Our founding fathers said that if the government gets to be too much, the people can bring it down. How do you bring it down? You have to vote in it. You have to know who you're voting for. You have to know what's going on. You have to go help vote people out to get them removed from office. We can do that. You can actually get people removed from office. You don't have to wait till election day. But everybody is too afraid because we hear all the stories of the FBI kicking in doors. We hear all these things that are going on. Well, yeah, that's all part of the plan, right? Because if you scare enough people, what ends up happening? Then everybody else falls in line. Think about how they keep prisoners, they keep everybody shackled up. And if someone gets out of line, whack, and they all get back in line. Why are we bringing all this up? Because currently, our country is being destroyed. I'm not afraid to say it. It's my opinion, but it's being destroyed. And it's being purposely destroyed. And people are making hundreds upon hundreds of millions of dollars in the destruction of this country. We're going to be doing another segment that's going to have Governor Kristi Noem in it that has a lot to do with what's going on with their agriculture. And it's super important. You got to stay tuned. It might even be the next one. I got to look in the order of processes of things. But one of the things that we need you to do, pay attention. Start getting involved. If you see that you've got legislation or people in your local government that are actually just causing nothing but problems, look at the attorney general that's running over in New York right now, or one of the district attorneys that is over there that decided to raise the, the minor crimes, limit when you're petty theft, when you raise the petty theft to $1,000. Why would you do that? Why? So you don't have to throw people in jail. So then the thieves know that as long as I keep everything under $1,000, I'm not going to get a felony. So I can steal pretty much whatever I want, whatever I need, right? Wrong. We need to fix a lot of this stuff. And, I love the way Governor Noem, who gets in the middle of all this and starts talking about basically our founding fathers, why we have a country, and that the drug cartels are here from Mexico destroying it. And there are people coming from all over that are helping destroy it from every part of the world. We need to close the border. It is that important. Biden wanted to open the border so we could have more voters. Pay attention to that. That's a very real thing. We need to close the border. Now, we love and thank all of you for watching these videos. We hope that you're having a good day, night, whatever it is, wherever you're at, and we'll be back with more content. So you take care of yourself, and we'll be seeing you very soon. Talk to you